Welcome to Center Ice, the Hockey Alberta podcast, home to all things hockey in our great province. Now, here's your host, Ted Emmett.
Hello and welcome back to really a new season of the Center Ice podcast. After a little bit of a summer break, we are back and so is hockey season. I'm your host, Ted Emmett. Also excited to be back, so that means they didn't replace me over the summer. Wasn't too sure about that, but here I am. And at the time this episode comes out, we'll be right smack dab in the middle of National Coaches Week. So it's only fitting that we have a coach-themed episode this time around, just so we can take the opportunity to say thanks, Coach, to all the amazing volunteer coaches out there and coaches everywhere that put countless hours of their own time into making the game happen. And we really should say thanks, Coach, every day, every week, every month, every year. But National Coaches Week is a great way to do it. And to shed a little more light on the coach development opportunities that Hockey Alberta offers, coaches at all levels across the province, we're going to chat with Hockey Alberta's Senior Manager of Development, Justin Fesyk, and then we'll do a bit of a coaching panel, the first time we've ever had 3 guests on at once, with Hockey Alberta's coach mentor, Barry Medori, Team Alberta U16 male assistant coach, Alex Mandolidis, and 2-time Olympic gold medalist and 2019 Canada Winter Games gold medalist as the head coach of Team Alberta U18 female, Carla Mcleod. So looking forward to both those interviews. And before we get to that, even after a break, it's kind of still the same old spiel. Once again in Alberta, the environment is rapidly changing. Lots of different government rules and restrictions coming down and changing all the time. So the state of hockey in our province could very well change drastically between the time I'm recording this and the time you hear it. So make sure you keep that in mind. But as always, head to hockeyalberta.ca for the latest information and news. And with that, let's get to our first guest. Joining us now is Hockey Alberta's Senior Manager of Hockey Development, Justin Fesyk, to talk a little bit about coaching development. So Justin, thanks for sitting down. Feels pretty good to do a live interview here. Might be the last one again for a while, so welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Always a pleasure. And it is nice to talk in person in our office. So good environment to be in right now.
First off, you've been with Hockey Alberta since 2005, so over 15 years now. You've seen a lot of evolution in not just your role, but the organization as a whole. So maybe just start off by talking a bit about what your current role is, or maybe even start at the beginning and where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a wild ride of a kid graduating out of university in Saskatchewan and not really knowing the path of growing up, and we had the opportunity to get a job with Hockey Alberta, and was fortunate enough to open our first regional center, and our regional center happened to be in Grand Prairie. So did a little bit of a different location for me being a small town Saskatchewan boy, but I think the opportunity to work in hockey was something that I relished. And from there moved on and, had the luxury of working in 4 different roles within Hockey Alberta, and all the way to the Senior Manager of Hockey Development, and oversee all of our coach programming in Alberta, all our player development, and then also most recently our Team Alberta program and a lot of our elite programming through our AEHL and AFHL.
And you've also had the opportunity to work in some different areas like the Team Alberta program or with Hockey Canada as well, too. So from that, you've seen player development, coach development at pretty much every level of the game.
Yeah, having a young family, been through it. Started out at the U7 and the Intro to Hockey model with my own kids, and then moving on as well to be the director of operations when we still operated the national under-17 program. All the way up to a national level down to the U7 kids. So seen it all, been part of it all. A lot of great experiences, worked with a ton of great people, and a lot of different challenges as a coach as you move through the different levels. But obviously very rewarding, but just different challenges needed at each level.
And it's National Coaches Week, so obviously we're going to talk about that a bit. And just from your perspective, both as a Hockey Alberta, with your role with Hockey Alberta, and as a coach yourself, as a parent, as a hockey parent, how important is a coach, not only for player development, but really just as a part of everyone's life? Because I can remember growing up, I still remember a lot of my coaches. A lot of them was my dad a lot of the time, but coaches can be a huge figure in people's lives.
Yeah, I think it's the one piece that we maybe overlook, but just the ability to be a role model for not only your own children if you happen to be a parent coach, but also all the other kids on the team. And it's similar to a teacher role. The amount of time I think we maybe underestimate how much time a coach spends with kids, throughout their hockey season. Very similar, very relatable to a teacher in a classroom. And those of you that are parents, your kids, most of them make special bonds with their teachers, can name them by name, from grade to grade. And I think it's no different in hockey as kids move up. The adult influences become very influential in who they are and who they become. And obviously the main point is just their experience within the game. So I always say that coaches kind of hold the kingdom, the key to the kingdom for a kid's development and their experience.
And that rolls perfectly into the next question, because obviously at Hockey Alberta, player development is the largest, arguably most important part of what we do here at Hockey Alberta. But coach development is huge too, not only to make sure we're developing good coaches, but how does that translate to player development if we're doing our part to help develop great coaches?
Yeah, I think, that's why we do exist at Hockey Alberta. We are a membership and a participant-driven organization. It does boil down to more kids playing and experiencing the game. But then all the components around the things that affect the kids' experiences is the part that we would look at. So, looking at Hockey Alberta, annually we have over 60,000 youth playing the game. And on any given year, we have about 16,000 coaches. So there's some big numbers there as we look at. But really, when we looked at it as an organization, how are we really going to truly affect those 60,000 youth participants in our game? And the easiest way when we looked at it, a little overwhelming at that number, but we were able to take a smaller chunk and really look at the coaches and the influence that they have and giving them all the tools that they need to provide the positive experience for the kids. When we look at the training and leadership component, we can provide that. But once coaches get that, they're kind of on their own, and they really are the ones who lead and guide that player's experience and that player's development. And then also we encourage them to, hold the keys to the tools that can have every kid reach their potential in our sport. And ideally that falls majority of the time back right on the coach. So pretty big responsibility, but again, exciting role for, our adult leaders and our leaders within the game in hockey. So.
And it's got to be a moving target as well, because, you're not dealing with kids where a lot of times you're teaching them something for the first time. You have adults now who have grown up, maybe coached a different way, because I think we've seen it at every level of the game. Coaching style has changed a lot. So there are kind of some speed bumps and a lot of learning curve on Hockey Alberta's side for really how to best work with these coaches and develop them, because, they may come in with a completely different mindset.
Well, I think there's been an evolution in the game and in society. So I think the demands from the consumer or the player and even the families is quite a bit more. As we look at it, the game has become more skilled. It's become faster. It's become maybe less team focused, less technical, but more real individual skill. And we see that in today's day and age with the elite players in the NHL. And those are the new role models for the kids. And that's where they want to strive to achieve. So we have not only, as a coach, you have the responsibility of running a team, providing a safe environment, giving kids the tools, but more and more the demands are for the coaches to really understand the areas of skill development and what are the skills needed to execute the tactics within the game. And that's the part that parents are looking for. That's the fun stuff where the kids get to be creative, really push themselves outside of their limits, but really do some pretty neat things with the puck and really increase the pace of play. So the demands have definitely grown. You also talk about the technology within the game. The way we teach shooting is drastically different. Now we've got these composite sticks. So just technique has become really prominent. And what we want to do is teach kids proper technique at younger ages. So when they do get the strength and ability, that they can reach their potential. So a lot of different things changed in the environment, in the game, but again, always exciting. And the evolution is always there. And that's what keeps us busy and working day to day. So.
And there are a ton of opportunities available for coaches or even for organizations to utilize through Hockey Alberta. What are some of those? Because I know we do a lot here, and there's probably a lot that people may not realize. So maybe we'll start off with, you mentioned at the top there, the regional centers and how it's evolved from you in Grand Prairie, and now there's 6 across the province, including one here in Red Deer for the central region. But talk a bit about the evolution of the regional centers and what they offer to our members.
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned, I opened the first regional center back in 2006, which seems like quite a while ago now. It took us a while to actually establish that framework and what it would look like. We weren't able to open our second center until 2010. So we had 4 years of operation to try to figure out, what were the needs, what was the purpose, how much service could we provide? What were our associations looking for? And really, we found that evolution around the coach development really opened a new door, and it became a whole new area of service that we could provide as Hockey Alberta. So shortly after 2010, we did expand to our 5 additional centers by 2013. So it took 4 years for the second one, and then within 3 years, we opened 5 additional ones. So after we were able to prove the strategy, we moved very quickly because we knew that there was a need out there and that we could provide more support to associations and better developing their coaches. As we look at it, in our strategic direction, creating a really, I'd say, comprehensive coach development plan is really important. We have focused on a coaching pathway. And within that pathway, first and foremost, the coach development does start at the local level. So we want to create an environment where our associations put the amount of emphasis needed and support mechanisms in place to develop their coaches. And then we would progress all the way through. We do offer the National Coach Certification Program. So those are our minimum coach requirements that all coaches need to take as a head coach, as a part of a team within Hockey Alberta. So that's a regulation put in place. But what we really found is with the national programming, it gave coaches a broad base and gave them the confidence to run a team. But we really wanted to tailor that further. We have the ability in Alberta. We have unique challenges. And what we wanted to do is really have our coach education program catered to the needs of the players within Alberta and what the coaches needed as well. So gathering a lot of information, looking at, what we could do to enhance the coach's ability to deliver. We created a lot of different options within our coaching pathway, whether it's around leadership, whether it's getting kids at the midget level involved through our Future Coaches program. We have a post-secondary program called our Future Leaders Development Program, which gets post-secondary kids exposed to coaching and giving them some tools. And then all the way as we go through, right, to our AA models, AAA models, and what I would call our pinnacle to our coaching pathway, which would be our Team Alberta program. For those coaches that have the ability to be involved in that, it is I wouldn't say a crash course, but it definitely gives them the hands-on practical teaching knowledge that you can't really get anywhere else. When we bring them in, they select a team, they go to a competition, and then through that, all of the coaches have a mentorship or a mentor opportunity where they are attached, and each team has a mentor. So really second to none. I think it is leading in the whole country with regards to what we do with our Team Alberta program, and something we pride ourselves on at Hockey Alberta as an additional avenue for coaches to be the best they can be.
So really a lot out there for coaches, for all our members to utilize in the way of development. And it's all on our website, so we won't make you sit here and list everything off one by one. But really the easiest way, if any coaches are curious about what's available to them, obviously just call or contact your regional center, right? That's what they're here for.
Yeah, our regional center locations are strategically placed across the province. There's the 6 centers. They do each have operating areas. So all of the minor hockey associations have a designated regional center as their first line of contact. And if if they are looking for support around the coach development piece, around any player development initiatives, that is their front line. So in a value chain and a good communication path, we do want them to be the front line. And then from there, we can filter out as to what the needs are. And hopefully service at a very high level to what the needs are of each individual association.
And you mentioned, all the different programs, and with your 15 plus years at Hockey Alberta, it has to be pretty cool too, because you've seen a number of coaches grow from the grassroots level to coaching in, the Western Hockey League or even beyond, a couple coaches in the NHL. What's that been like for you personally, just to be a part of that growth and see these coaches go from really realize their dreams?
Yeah, I think it's a sense of pride, and it's that creating that coaching fraternity. And I think, the one component is just, once you go into battle with a coach on a team or a competition, you really develop that lifelong friendship. And so I've kept in touch with a lot of the guys I've been able to work with, the guys that have moved on to maybe coach at World Juniors, Michael Dick with a World Championship last year. Lots of people that have gone through our program, started, at a different level, but worked their way up. And I think we pride ourselves. We've been very, very, I guess lucky in our short-term competitions. And that's a testament to our coaching fraternity that we've built. We've been very successful on any national level or Western level, bringing home multiple gold medals numerous times, and always in the running and competing for that first place position. So that's a testament to the coaches in Alberta and the ability for us to, not only develop them, but, maintain those relationships and then giving them the tools and then utilizing their expertise to benefit the kids in Alberta. So yeah, definitely rewarding. And it's neat to see people move on and be successful at all levels. So.
And a couple more coming up on the show as well. We have a panel with Alex Mandolidis and Carla Mcleod. Obviously, with Carla has her playing success, but also success as a coach in the Team Alberta program. And Alex he's getting ready to be part of the U16 camp that's about to happen here. So that's pretty cool. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and it's hard not to talk about the pandemic because it's been now such a huge part of our lives. But obviously the last year and a half has been a struggle, and the 2020-21 season really barely got off the ground in terms of playing time for players. But Barry Medori has mentioned on this show that it's not a lost year. So from the development side, what kind of opportunities were there? And I know Hockey Alberta did a lot to try and, in a different way, especially over Zoom, develop coaches and still use that time to make sure that they could develop these coaches off the ice and provide a different, unique learning opportunity. So from your standpoint and everyone here on the development side of Hockey Alberta, what was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk to a lot of people and, I guess taking the NHL type of model, but, coaches are so busy throughout the season. They got 6 to 8 months of working in their team and developing and leading them. And the one part we kind of forget about is, when do coaches have time to develop? And really that is during those off seasons and that downtime within their season. So, saying the pandemic was a loss is probably not true, but at the same point, when the game wasn't able to be operated on the ice, we were able to offer some opportunities for coaches to continually hone their trade. Because just as we want players to develop, we definitely encourage coaches to develop as well. So we did have some pockets of time where we were able to offer some online training, but even just reaching out and, during a time of need, touching base with coaches, seeing how they're doing. What are the types of things they're doing with their teams? How can we continually support? But I think really finding that time and really the lifelong coaches and the growth mindset coaches are the ones who take advantage of those opportunities and finding that time to really continue and hone their craft so they can be the best they can be. So a bit of a different spin, but something we can think about is, when do coaches really get the time to develop? Because they are so busy through a season worrying about others, but you can be a little bit selfish in some downtime and take that opportunity to make yourself better.
And I think it's another area as well where, the whole telecommuting type of way of doing things and using Zoom for one has really changed the game, and probably something I would think that'll be utilized in the future, even when we hopefully transition back to being able to do things in person again fully. Because I know, you can get a coach come on and from wherever they are in the world and talk to the Alberta coaches and stuff. So I have to assume that's something that's going to keep being utilized.
Yeah, the technology has been definitely a bonus, and it's here to stay. It is part of our educational plan moving forward. And like you said, there is an opportunity to connect around the world. We've had Ralph Kruger on before from Germany. We've had other guys on, and it's just interesting. You have different challenges with time zone and changes and that. But it's definitely connecting the world in a way which was very difficult before. As a nonprofit organization, obviously to bring people in person, travel them around becomes very difficult, and it is taxing on our membership. So finding ways to be more efficient, to deliver, obviously key messages, but obviously sharing, coaching experiences as well will be here, and definitely something we're looking at. Through that, we are looking at within our league structure, definitely supporting throughout the season. As we found, it's really hard to do in-person stuff in the season. So we are able now, while a coach is continually coaching, we can find ways to touch on things at key points within the season. We are able to get messaging out instantaneously in a very effective way as well, where you can actually go face to face. And I just think back of the days of the old conference calls, and now those are such a thing of the past, and everything's about video and seeing people in reaction and actually communicating through technology, and definitely been a bonus and something that we'll take advantage of moving forward here at Hockey Alberta.
Well, we won't take up much more of your time, Justin, but thank you for hopping on here. As I mentioned, it's always a pleasure to have people from the office here in Hockey Alberta on. I think we have a lot to talk about, a lot to share, and a lot to be proud of. So thank you again for sharing really just a little bit of insight into the coaching development side of Hockey Alberta. And thank you to you and the whole development team for everything you do.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ted. It's it's something that we probably don't brag about enough for sure, but there's a lot going on, and we got a staff of 14 that's out there day to day trying to make the game better, and we want to continually support that. So yeah, thanks a lot, and all the best.
A huge thank you again to Justin Fesyk for taking the time to shed a little more light on Hockey Alberta's coach development opportunities. And we recorded that one a little while ago, so it was nice to have an in-person interview after what feels like forever, and honestly, not sure when I'm going to get to do that again. So yeah, that was nice. For more information on anything coach-related that Justin and I talked about, you can head to hockeyalberta.ca and click on the Coaches tab. Now, of course, before we move on, it's time to catch up on what's going on in hockey around the province, so here's what you need to know. Lots of coach-related news to start the new hockey season, which ties in perfectly to this episode. First of all, Hockey Alberta's Coach of the Month program is back, which means you can say thanks, Coach, to that difference maker in your community by nominating them for a Coach of the Month award. Monthly winners will receive a coaching package from Players Bench Team Apparel worth over $500, so get those nominations in. And for all the coaches out there listening, a reminder that it is clinic season, so make sure you take advantage of all the clinics being offered, but also make sure that your coach requirements are up to date. So if you need to find out which requirements you need or how to register for a clinic, just head to hockeyalberta.ca, drop down the Coaches tab, and click Coaching Requirements. And last but not least, the 10th annual World Girls Ice Hockey Weekend takes place October 15th to 17th you guessed it, all over the world. And players, teams, and communities across Alberta are encouraged to join in and celebrate the female game by either joining in on an existing event or hosting an event of their own in their community. So you can head to our website for more details on that one as well. And that's what you need to know. As always, head to hockeyalberta.ca for more details. And now joining us, we have a fantastic trio of coaches, starting with Mount Royal University men's hockey assistant coach. That's a mouthful there. Alex Mandolidis, who's also serving as an assistant coach for Team Alberta U16 male this year. So Alex, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Also with us is two-time Olympic gold medalist Carla Mcleod, who not only played for Team Alberta in 95 and 99 at the Canada Winter Games, but also won a gold medal at the 2019 Canada Winter Games here in Red Deer with Team Alberta U18 female as the head coach, and very recently actually named the head coach of the women's hockey at the University of Calgary. So Carla, congratulations there, and thanks for joining us as well. Maybe a little bit of a rivalry already on the panel this morning, Calgary post-secondary rivalry. Yeah.
We'll get the line in the sand here ASAP, but thanks for having me.
That's right.
And last but not least, making his second appearance now on the Center Ice podcast is Hockey Alberta's high-performance coach mentor, Barry Medori. Barry, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for asking me, Ted. Appreciate it.
And so with it being National Coaches Week, we're smack dab now in between the Team Alberta U16 and Team Alberta U18 fall camps as well, as we get geared up for those competitions. Thought we'd just have a bit of a roundtable discussion about coaching from the grassroots level and up, the experiences, obviously amazing experiences that can come with coaching, and really what it takes to be a successful coach. And of course, with the three of you being on this panel, we're going to dive in a little deeper too into the Team Alberta process and what that looks like from a coach development standpoint. So just to get things rolling here, keeping it simple to start with Carla and Alex, as former players who have moved behind the bench now, what made you kind of make that decision, and what has kept you going to really make coaching a career for each of you?
I'll jump in, Alex.
Yeah, you go for it.
Certainly, as you mentioned there, Ted, I had a really fortunate playing career, a lot of fun. And, as the career was sort of winding down and I knew retirement was coming about, it was really a no-brainer for me that one day I wanted to coach. And, when I look back at my playing days, I think it's just because of the coaches that had impacted me and how they made the game fun for me. They made the game challenging for me. It became such a big part of it. So for me, the transition from playing to coaching was actually really smooth. And I've said it a million times now. I actually enjoy coaching more, and I really loved playing. So I think for me, it's just the opportunity to work with other people and help them achieve their goals. But certainly the transition was simpler for me than maybe some others. But I've hit the coaching field here and haven't looked back.
And for me, I had a little bit of a break from my playing career to my coaching career. So I missed the game. I missed the competition. I missed the camaraderie. I missed, there's so much to love about the game of hockey. So when I got into coaching, you think back and reflect on the people that had the largest impact on you, and you hope that you can, continue that legacy to the younger generation. So it's or the new generation and the players that you're coaching. To echo Carla, like it's unbelievable to be a coach now and being involved and more so than a player. And you're right, like I love the game and love playing, but being able to coach it's just a phenomenal opportunity.
And Barry, you're a former player and you've done a lot of coaching in your career as well. But now, as a former teacher, your role with Hockey Alberta is really you're a coach to the coaches. So, what does that mean to you to be able to do that and give back and really help develop a lot of high quality coaches in Alberta?
Well, I think, Ted, that it is paying it forward in a different way. Having been a teacher for many years. It was a great segue into what I'm doing now. I'm very fortunate that I was given the opportunity by Hockey Alberta to get involved with this job. When it started out, it was 2 lines about being a coach mentor at a high performance level. That was basically the job description. So over the last, 13, 14 years, we've ended up evolving it to where it is now, where I've had the opportunity and still having to work with Alex, to work with Carla and tons of other coaches within the branch, both at the high performance level as well as the grassroots level. So it's been a unique experience and it's kept me working. The passion's still there.
And because Coaches Week is all about saying thanks, coach, for each of you, growing up playing hockey and even now as coaches and as you all continue to develop in your respective fields, what role have coaches played in your lives? Not even just in hockey, but I know coaches can have a big impact outside the rink as well.
Yeah, I think Barry hit the nail on the head there too. It's the teachers and coaches in our lives that shape us. And I think, we're so fortunate to be part of a sport where, when you're growing up every year, you'll get a new experience with a new coach. And when I look back at my career from when I started, and I was the only girl playing in Spruce Grove, I had the dads there on the bench empowering me and encouraging me to go and never questioning anything. And you think of, that starting point for my career was so critical. So Peter Plaisir was my first ever coach. And I know he called me sweetie on the bench because I was only 4 years old. But he cared. And that's, I think, the theme throughout all my coaches is, you just want to know you're being cared for. You want to know you're being seen as a human. And, as I work through the ranks and I look back, playing for Mel Davidson, playing for Shirley Cameron through the Hockey Alberta program. The impact on me, what they've done for me to this day and continue to do for me is so impressive and so much appreciated. I look at my college coach, Mark Johnson, Wally Kozak, again, a teacher of the game. All these people continue to help shape me as a coach, never mind when I was playing. Opportunity to work with Barry for several years now. You're always thinking and being creative in different ways. And so taking those little nuggets from everyone that has coached me has really helped shape me as a coach. And you can never be them, but certainly I think Alex and I probably try to steal some things along the way and emulate those people in different capacities at different times.
Yeah, and then when you look at coaching or even the game of hockey, and we say that it's such a great game, it teaches us this, but when you step back and become a mentor yourself and a coach yourself, you realize it's the people behind the scenes that are actually teaching you those lessons. So mentorship, teaching, support, all the hats that you have to wear, it really is a credit to those coaches that you've had and even still have. I mean, as Carla, we're both in the same boat. We're always seeking for mentorship and someone to help us out and to be in our corner when, we're, a little bit down or something like that. We're trying to figure out the X's and O's on something, but it's those life skills that you really want to take away from and then help out with your players. And even the young coaches that you have on your staff, I think teaching and mentorship is such a valuable skill to have in coaching.
Yeah, and I think the two words are very synonymous. Again, starting out as a teacher, when I started coaching, I almost looked at it as the same thing because I needed people to teach me how to become a coach and things to think about and what to do. Certainly different than a classroom or a gym setting, but all of the planning and preparation and thought process and everything. And I think the key word Carla used is just caring. For kids and showing that. And I've learned over time that no matter what level I've coached and the people that I've worked with, if you show them that you care, they don't really necessarily want to know how much you know to start with. It starts with that caring piece. And just to add on, Carla, Peter Plazer and I are good friends, and we coached against one another back in the day when dinosaurs were still running around the earth. I think you might not have been around then, but yeah, we're very close friends in Spruce Grove now.
That's really neat, Barry.
Yeah.
Please say hi to him for me.
I will.
Thanks.
And so there's two different questions that can come out of that one now. But first of all, and I think there might be some different answers here and some similarities, but I think when a lot of people look to answer this question, they look at the win column and the loss column, which I think is a big misconception. So what really does make a successful coach?
Alex, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, definitely. I think the successful coach is the one that you can look back on and share such great experiences with them, right? And fortunately, some of those are wins, right? And you are coming away, but some of the best supportive moments were the ones where we did have defeat and we had heartbreak and we had that empty feeling in our stomach, but they were there. They were there with the right thing to say and the perfect words to pick you up and to keep you motivated and to keep moving and trying. And those are the coaches that I try to emulate now that I'm a coach. And I know that worked for me, but you talk with other players and, they had a different approach to them and they also connected with them. So you're kind of scratching your head. It's like, how do they do this? How do they mean so much to everyone? And I think it's really is just a credit to how well they knew people and how well they understood their players. And like Barry said, the trust that they built in order to be a little bit vulnerable so that we could be vulnerable and recognize that they were always going to support us and have our back.
Yeah. And it's exactly that. I agree, Alex. It's feeling valued, I think, as a player, as a contributor to the group and being heard and seen. And, that again boils down to that capacity to understand players as people. You'll get far more out of them in any realm if they do know you believe in them. And so forging that rapport and taking the time to put in the effort there, not always just doing the hockey side, but finding out the life side and who they are as people, where do they come from, what's their story. It's not an easy thing to do as a coach. It's very time consuming. But it's also, if hopefully it's the passion of the coach is to be able to learn that and do that, because that's the difference maker at the end of the day. I hate to break it to all coaches. The game's the game. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. There's really no secrets anymore from the X's and O's. It's in those moments of intense, competition, do they believe in themselves that they can execute and achieve? And all that's done in the legwork leading up to that moment, nothing to do with the coaches or anything in that moment. So, when I look back at my positive experiences, it's exactly just that gut feel that when you think back on it, it makes you smile. So for me, my measure of success, it has always been, when players graduate from our programs, do they come back, years after and say hi and want to have a coffee and catch up? To me, that means that there's something there that you've connected with them as a person. And that's what I have valued so much as a player, is the connection I've had. So that's something I try to bring to the teams I work with and the players that I have the chance to coach.
And I guess I would sort of the similar vein, but reading a little bit, one of the books that I read, and I love this man, John Wooden, and he was asked once if he was a good coach. And he said, ask my players in 25 years if I was. So what Carla talked about is a truth. When I started coaching in Onaway, I had a group of 5-year-olds moving on up through the ranks with them, my son being one of them. And up until a few years ago, when they started having kids, that group of kids still played together. They still communicate with me all the time. I would say that almost all of them now have kids and they all coach. And to me, that's a legacy of that as well. Is like Carla said, when they can come back to you and talk to you and say things, it's meaningful. So I think that's the important part of it, is showing that side of it, showing, like you're saying, they trust and that you really cared for them moving on through.
Well, and I know, and you all mentioned too, the experience part of it. And I think that's really what it's all about. And Carla, you mentioned going back to, a couple of Alberta Hockey Hall of Fame honored members as well, in Shirley Cameron and Wally Kozak. And, you still talk about those coaches today. And I know Barry can attest to this, and we're going to shift to talking about the Team Alberta program a bit more, because the two of you included, there have been some incredible coaches coming up through that program. Alex, you're a part of it right now. You're about to hit the ice again, and you just spent all weekend in Red Deer at the U16 fall camp. And Carla, you're a Canada Winter Games gold medalist as a coach, which is pretty amazing as well. So Barry, just talk a bit about the Team Alberta program and why it's so important for those coaches who do want to take the next step and coach at a bit higher level and maybe make it a career. That program's really evolved now from, it was just Team Alberta, and now there's Pee Wee prospects. Now there's the Prospects Cup, there's Alberta Challenge and Alberta Cup, as well as the U16, U18 program. So just talk a bit about that and how it's evolved as a great tool for coach development.
Yeah, I think, coaches end up having to take courses every few years to end up upgrading, learning, getting new material, learning what next level coaching is all about. So that's the certification part, the NCCP part of Hockey Alberta, Hockey Canada. But for a lot of coaches that want to end up becoming better, and I look back on myself, I only ever wanted to be one step ahead of my kids all the way through, because I had a pretty smart bunch coming up, and I wanted to be ahead of them. So that's sort of how I got started. And when I began working with Hockey Alberta, there was obviously some of this going on, but we've really tried to end up showing people the importance of coming on board, working with a whole bunch of different coaches, different experiences. Short-term competition is a beast in itself, with the amount of work that has to be done in a short time, the magic that it takes to bring a group of players together in a short period of time and get them to care for one another, play for each other, and obviously setting goals and all of those things. So that's a lot of stuff that some coaches might go through in their experience in a small community or even a large one, be it Calgary or Lethbridge or whatever. But I think the Hockey Alberta experience is that much more. And again, a big part of our program, we have a pyramid, and there's a whole lot of things that go in it, but we want good people and we want character people, are the two bottom pieces. And as a coach, most come in, and I think lots, you asked the question before about, the development part of coaching. And this is where we're different than most other branches. We really try to teach, even at the grassroots level, but at Team Alberta level, the importance of developing athletes. And Carla can attest to it. She's just been through it. Alex has been through it in the under 16 side. But we have 2 goalies every year that go to an event, and both goalies play the same amount of games until we get to the final game. And then it's whoever's earned the spot would get to end up playing in the final game. So basically, in a 5-game tournament, 2 goalies would get 2 games each, one would get a third. A lot of the other branches will end up playing their best goalie basically throughout the whole thing. It does make it a little more difficult for our coaches, but from a planning perspective and an understanding of what we're trying to do is to get all these kids to develop and become better. I think that's a model that we follow right from the beginning. And it's a teachable moment, and that's why I bring it up, because a lot of coaches, when they get into it, and again, go back to the last question, if you're not winning, you're not going to have good memories. Well, I would say that that's completely wrong. All of our events, when we were allowed to, and when we did transport kids by bus to an event, there was 20 players and 5 coaches on the bus that would go to the event. 20 players and 5 coaches would leave, and the measure of success there was when the kids got dropped off, that none of them wanted to get off the bus because they had become that tight, whether they finished 1st or 8th in the event. So to me, I think our programs really try to instill that in the coaches. That's the most important piece. The coaching, the preparation, the practice planning, the on ice, that's all, like Carla said, as part of the X's and O's. But it's that philosophical difference, I think, that sets us apart.
And for you, Carla, now being part of Team Alberta as a player and as a coach, what was that experience like for your development on both sides of the game, but especially, transitioning from a player to a coach? How did that kind of help you in your growth as a coach?
Well, I think when I look back to my Canada Games experience as a player, just realizing, how it set me on my path to achieve my ultimate goals of one day playing on Team Canada. And, I'm not sure at the time you fully appreciate what you're learning and what you're putting in your back pocket as you move forward. But that's, the first step into truly sort of that elite short-term competition experience. And, when I look back and just little moments, particularly I remember I was 12 in my first one, so I don't remember a lot. I was just kind of scared the whole time of all the 17-year-olds on the team. But when I got to go again in 99, and I had some really good, solid conversations with Shirley Cameron, I learned later on she was trying to do right by me and give me the opportunity to have most success individually. And she was, then timesing that by 20. And that's something I've held on to, that it was never about her. It was always about us. And that just was a really neat moment. And then, obviously I was giving back to Hockey Alberta throughout my playing days too. I've always believed in helping, young Albertans share the same dream and hopefully have the same success. And I thought that was really important. So when I stepped into coaching and was able to be an assistant coach a couple times and head coach a couple times with Hockey Alberta, to me, it just warmed my heart, because it's where my roots lie. It's what got me to where I went. So, my objective through those opportunities was to make sure that, exactly as Barry said, when those players left that event, regardless of result, they were proud of that logo. They're proud to be a part of that team. They're proud to go back to their club team and share the experience, because that's what it's about. If it's rooted in the result, I hate to break it to people, but it's rarely going to be a success then. And that's just ridiculous. It's not what it's about. You do it the right way, you work hard, good things can happen. And certainly it can breed success. But for me, it was just that opportunity to kind of, I've always felt that. I still feel that. I talk to Emma and Smashfire all the time. She's our lone Albertan at the national team right now. And just trying to mentor, because, I'm a proud Albertan, and I'm Alberta built. So I believe in that model, and I believe in inspiring the next generation to realize what the game can take, where it can take us and what it can allot us. And it's the opportunity to meet others. So yeah, it's been a treat to sort of have a full circle moment from a playing to a coaching perspective.
You could just see Barry's head grow bigger and bigger as you say, Alberta built and proud Albertan. I'm sure you're giving him goosebumps right now. And that is really what it's all about. And for you, Alex, I think, at least in my 6 years at Hockey Alberta, I don't think there's ever been a Team Alberta event that you haven't been a part of, whether it's the Prospects Cup, Alberta Cup, or Team Alberta U16, and you're there in different roles every year. So what keeps you coming back, and really how have you grown every year to year coming back? Because it's probably a little bit different experience every time you come back.
No doubt, Ted. It's always great seeing you. I think that's why I do it. I want to hang out and chat with you. But no, it really is the people that you cross paths with. And this province has unbelievable coaches, unbelievable players. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? And I think when I first got into it, I played in the Alberta Cup. So I'm like, hey, this will be kind of neat to coach in it as well. And then, I'm back for year 2 because I wanted to have, because I enjoyed it so much. And then I wanted to get going. But, Barry, great mentor and coach, he'll make us do a SWOT analysis every year as a staff. And you kind of reflect on it. It's like, if I'm putting the same weaknesses and opportunities on my sheet and I haven't done anything with it, then am I really using this opportunity to its full advantage? And so that's really why I come back is one, the people. You learn so much from others, the players, the coaches, and that's going to help you work on those things, continue your development, right? And that's when I, back to one of the first questions is, I'm always looking for ways of to learn, to grow, to add to my toolbox as a coach. And what better way than to learn from people that in this province that are Alberta built, that do buy into the philosophies here and find success and find ways to win. That's more than just a gold medal. Obviously, we all want to win that. But when you look back at the 6 years that I've been part of it, every year is special, every year is different, but every year there's multiple successes that I get to smile back and stay in touch with the players. Like there's, who knew 6 years ago that a 20-year-old first year student was going to be on Mount Royal Cougars. Like I wasn't 6 years ago, that wasn't even on my radar. Right. And so it's just kind of crazy the paths that continue to cross and the people and the relationships that you continue to build with. So it's forever giving back when you give back.
And it's really fun from the Team Alberta side, watching a lot of coaches such as yourself come in and work their way, I guess, for lack of a better term, through the ranks. And Barry, I guess before we go to Barry, I'll give the Coles notes where, for the Prospects Cup and Alberta Cup and Alberta Challenge, there's you come in and you hire a staff for each team, whether it's 6 or 8 teams. And so you have dozens of coaches every year coming in, taking in that experience. And of course, you can go from an assistant coach to a coach, maybe go from Prospects Cup to Alberta Cup, and then have a shot to, eventually work with Team Alberta. So Barry, one role in there that's, again, very obviously you're going to have nothing but good things to say about it because it's what you oversee, but having those coach mentors in really all of those programs too is a pretty unique experience. And also not only for the coaches, but for anyone who wants to be a coach mentor for each team. It's just another step of growth for coaches that they may not even know is there.
Yeah. And whether you use the word mentor or resource or whatever, I think it's really important. Both Carla and Mando have touched on it more than once in their answers about the importance of, not just thinking that they have all the answers, but obviously seeking it out. And, Carla mentioned Wally and Mel as being 2 in her life, and having worked with both of them as well. There's different times, even myself, when you're not sure of something, you look to somebody else for advice, for guidance, for a different viewpoint, for whatever else. The program is built on that, and whether people look at it as, hey, it's a recognition piece, it's a next step. One of the things that I look at is exactly we've talked about all morning, or who are the good people that are in our programs that can end up evolving themselves into helping others. And so again, it's another way of giving back. You're now coaching, but you're coaching coaches, not necessarily kids. So you're using the experiences that you've gained through our programs to end up giving back to others and helping them to see, geez, I'm not planned enough. Boy, I'm not doing this well enough, or here's where I can grow. Set 2 new programs up within our grassroots ones that'll take shape a lot more next year when we do run our programs. One is a mental performance piece that will be added that staffs will be asked to help their players with, because we've really found over time that that's the one bucket that isn't touched much. And in short term, it's even more important because kids are always afraid coming in. They don't know everybody. They've got their own idea of who they are as players. So it's a way for us to teach our coaches the importance of taking care of the kids, growing that piece of the garden with them, because they only look at what's on ice for the most part, and their parents do as well. So that's one piece. And the other one, that we started on a year ago, and I put more work into it, is just a coach development plan. So like Mando was saying, we do a SWOT analysis each year, and I change it up based on every year. You don't want to do the same thing all over again, but exactly what it's for is why are you doing this program? What's in it for you? What are you going to give back? And what do you want to learn and grow from moving forward to help you as a coach? So if you're a first-year coach in the Alberta Winter Games or the Challenge or the Pee Wee Prospects coming in and you've never done it before, suddenly when you're asked that, it forces you to start to think about your own growth and development. What do you want to get better at? And so the mentors now have a bit of a pathway that throughout the whole event from start to finish, that they can help these coaches to see, here's where you're starting, here's some plans moving forward to get you there. Did you get there? And then what's next? So I think those two pieces with all of the other stuff will just be another added bonus for the program, and again, help coaches in Alberta to grow.
And Alex, probably last question for you here, because I know you have to hop on the ice right away. So we appreciate you squeezing this interview in. But you've been now both being a coach and a coach mentor. What is that process like? Because on both sides, obviously the resources there, having a coach mentor, but also it can be a little challenging, right? Because you have to learn sometimes to maybe meet people in the middle, or even sometimes, you're not always going to get your way. Maybe as a coach, you have to embrace a different philosophy and maybe relook at the way you coach.
Yeah, definitely, Ted. I think the big part is building that trust with the coach, right? They see us sometimes as mentors that, we don't have their back, or we're going to challenge and question everything, or that we want to do it ourselves because we've had the experience doing it. So I think that's the first challenge, is trying to explain and get them on the same page that, no, I'm here to help you. And my questions aren't judgment, they're curiosity, right? I want to understand. I want to understand, why did you do it this way? Why isn't it an awful question? It's a great question. It's just how you frame it. And, then you start having some real dialogue with coaches, and, to see them grow and open up. And I'd be remiss not to share, my first experience with Barry. We always laugh about it, right? I was that coach. I was the young buck that, thought he had it all figured out. And there was a little bit of head knocking going on. And now it's like giving Barry calls to ask questions. What book are you reading? We're both love talking books. We're always reading things and, watching and seeing how that relationship has evolved. So it's giving people opportunity, like the space that they need, but also continuing to show that, no, I got your back. I'm here to help you. I want you to have the best experience possible. These are the things and the philosophies that we believe in terms of the program, and just kind of observe and support the best that you can. Right. And that's really what it is building trust in that relationship. And Carla said it before, the connections, right? You can't do anything by yourself. You need to have a group of people. So it's building that trust and connection.
Then I think we could have a whole different episode just on Barry Medori stories with all the former Team Alberta players and coaches. But Alex, we'll turn you loose here so we have a proper opportunity to say goodbye, because you got to get on the ice there. But thank you for joining the three of us here, and best of luck too at the WHL Cup coming up in October here. So thank you again.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for pairing me with such great coaches as Barry and Carla. Best of luck to you, Carla, this year, and congrats on the job and the new role. And Barry, we'll see you soon. And Ted, take care. Thanks very much.
Hey, thanks, Alex. And so, Carla, I guess we'll continue the conversation as well, because you've also had some of that, experience working with Barry, but other coach mentors as well. And again, how did you, I guess, embrace the challenge, so to speak? Because I again can assume that there are some times where you and other coaches, or you and Barry, don't necessarily agree, but again, that learning experience comes from that as well.
Yeah, and I think no different than as a coach, you're trying to, get your group on the same page. If you're not willing to have some roughage or some real conversation, I don't think you ever grow it. So when you look at those opportunities of those conversations where maybe as the coach, you're a little defensive because you are being questioned and you think you've checked all the boxes, there isn't a conversation that if you're a natural grower in life and you want to learn, you're always learning, that you don't reflect on those conversations and be appreciative, because you will always look at it slightly different. And I think that's the value in having great people around you that don't see it exactly the same as you. It's no different than your players. They don't see it the same, all of them. So you have to be willing to always have communication and have those conversations to ensure, you're moving the whole group in the same direction. So, at the end of the day, whether it's Barry, if you're working the Hockey Alberta side, or just your life mentors, you want them to come at it from a slightly different angle. And then when you have the foundation of respect, you're always going to walk towards the right solution. And, it's a little give and take on both sides always. But I just find the communication and the capacity to have an environment where you can be vulnerable and have a conversation is the most important piece for growth, regardless if it's mentor to coach or coach to players. And so that's a big part of establishing the culture and environment that you need to be successful.
And so I always hate steering towards this topic, but it is really the most prevalent topic out there, and to relate to every single coach out there across the province. Barry, you mentioned when you joined us the couple episodes ago that, obviously COVID threw a huge wrench in the season last year, and we really don't know what hockey's going to look like this year. But you said last season cannot and should not be a lost season for anyone, whether it's players or coaches, because there was a lot of opportunity for growth in different ways and challenging that adversity. So what did you see, and what do you continue to see from coaches really at every single level, where they're trying to really push through the roadblocks of last year and still trying to develop players the best they can, even if it's off the ice?
Yeah, I think I ended up doing make work projects throughout the year, Ted, and probably did, 30 or 40 Zoom sessions with teams, with coaching staffs, with organizations. Started out on wellness, then it went to mental toughness, and then it went to what do you do on the ice? How do you divide it up? Different sorts of ideas, with drills and skills and that. And what I found in talking with coaches throughout, and even now, and watching my grandkids play, is what they missed was a camaraderie of what we're talking about, being a group, being together, getting to the rink, laughing, working hard together, all of those sorts of things. The coaches that were self-aware and recognized that it could be, and it's like anything in life with adversity, you can go two ways. And that old feed the wolf, feed the good wolf or the bad wolf, I think comes out in it. If you took it negatively, that you couldn't do what you're normally used to doing, you didn't use it as a growth opportunity. If you took it the other way, you're learning a lot more about how to develop players' individual skills, because that's what it's all about. And having gone to Europe enough times, through Hockey Canada experiences, I can tell you that their practice to game ratio is a lot different than ours. Their kids are very skilled, and it's just that's the way that they do it. And every coach can teach skating to puck handling to whatever. So there was a growth opportunity there for coaches that took advantage of it. Another one was, what can you do off ice? So that was a lot of what I presented, was on how do we help these kids and ourselves through what's going on, because we could again be the poor me side of it. So reading, there was tons of different sessions, whether it was NHL or coach site or whatever, that you could take part in and learn from. I know I read probably at least 20 books throughout it, just on different things. So the ones that saw it as a glimmer of hope and an opportunity, I think seized it and did a great job. And I think most coaches did do that. They didn't lose sight of the fact that they still had a team to work with, and they wanted to help their players through it as much as it was helping themselves as well. And just talking with coaches now at the rink this year, you can just see that excitement again with the kids being back and them being on the ice. And right now, for most coaches anyways, it's going through the phase of selecting teams and all of that. But they're back to the rink and the smell of the rink and, being with people and all of that stuff. So if they took advantage of it, they learned a lot and gained a ton, and their players will be much better for it. And I would hope that most coaches in Alberta did that and are going to be better for it this year and moving forward.
Well, and we can find out at least one example right now, because Carla, for you as a coach, what did that season look like, and how did you, I guess, really same as what Barry just said, like how did you push through that adversity as a coach? Because I can only imagine it's it's very new to everyone, but just a really difficult year to try and keep players engaged and move forward the best you can.
Well, again, if you look at it from an optimistic standpoint and sort of what it allowed for us, it allowed us to see them as people. We almost had to remove the game from the equation at times, right, when we were all at home. And so yeah, the creativity, which hopefully for most coaches, that should, that's a part that gets you excited, is this chance to be creative, whether it's within the game or within team building, within the mental performance. So that's what it was. Like, I think for me, my brain didn't stop the whole year. It's, okay, what can we do next? What can we do next? And you know what? One of the key pieces that I felt was important. It's interesting, Barry, because we actually did it with Team Alberta, sort of unknowingly in some capacity as well, that year heading into Red Deer, was just calling them on the phone and just chatting. So it wasn't about anything to do with hockey. It was just actually as human to human, and no different. They get to see me then too. It was just, how's life going? How was quarantine with your 3 siblings? How's the dinner table going? These, like, just talk. What's going on the Bachelorette? Like, you just have a conversation that takes you away from the game and away from what was going on, and just let you be two people who respect each other having a conversation. So we did a lot of that too, and I thought that was invaluable in a lot of ways. And at the end of the day, when you got the green light to go do something, we did the best we could to be creative and keep it fresh. I think that was one of the challenges as a coach. There's a lot of warm-up drills we did last year. It's like, what are we going to do that's going to not, make my brain go crazy, never mind theirs. So just being creative. And again, as Barry said, those were just using your resources, tapping into sort of new ideas or calling random coaches to say, hey, what are you doing these days? So just sharing within your network was really important. But yeah, I thought for the COVID year, it allowed us all to sort of look inside and say, okay, who am I as a person? Where do I need some help with? Like, some are intrinsically motivated, others aren't. So, trying to figure out what everyone needed was a neat part of the puzzle, and certainly allowed me to get to know my team a lot better.
And that rolls perfectly into the last question here, because I think the central theme of coaching is creating the experience for players. And I know we've talked a lot about the high performance side of coaching, and obviously you really can go a long way with coaching. If the drive is there, if you know the game and you're really willing to work on it. But I know for me, growing up, I played low-level hockey, so there's just a lot of parent volunteer coaches who are out there because coaches are needed, and a lot of them have made, really, still I think about them to this day, and my dad was one who coached all the time. People see him in the grocery store still 25 years later and say, hey, coach. So for both of you, I guess, Barry, I know you hate giving advice to people, but you're going to have to make an exception here. But for anyone out there, who's either coaching right now or thinking about coaching, doesn't matter the level, what advice do you have for them to really just get into the game and, work on it, on their coaching as much as they can to create those experiences, not just for the players, but themselves as well?
That's a loaded question, Ted. People don't know what they don't know. I would start with that one. If you're nothing without a gold medal, you're nothing with one, would be a Wallyism that to me is there. It's about development, not about the winning aspect. Winning takes care of itself through the process. I think another one that as parents and coaches today, we're missing the boat on, we're giving kids opportunities that require no adversity in it. We all want our kids to be successful no matter what it is or where it is. And I think in working with Carla, I think it was the first year, Carla, that we showed the video at the summer camp about fail harder. And to me, that's so important as well, is the fact, whether you're a coach or a player, that you can't not take that as being really sound philosophical advice, that we're not all going to be successful wherever we want to go. We apply for jobs, we apply for coaching jobs, we don't always get them. So what are you going to learn from it? How are you going to get better? And I think just being a lifelong learner, finding things that interest you and going after it. And I know they asked Michael Jordan years ago, and Kobe has answered similar, is, why are you so good at your game? And it's because they loved it. It was their passion. And so they were on it 24/7, and it just grew on them. And that's why they became great. I mean, obviously there's some DNA involved too, but at the end of the day, it's about you loving what you're doing. So 3 or 4 tidbits of advice, I guess.
And I guess I'll build on that one. And I know for all of us involved in hockey, like, first and foremost, to all the coaches, thank you, because it is a volunteer gig for 99% of the coaches out there. And it comes with a heavy load. And it seems to get heavier day by day or it can feel that way anyway. So to all the volunteers across the province that give back to the kids in our game, like, just thank you, because, we talked about it earlier in the broadcast, the impact that you're having, we've all felt it. Being in the sport. So that's number one. And I think, back to that point about sort of cultivating that environment, as Barry's alluding to, like, I think as a coach, it's really, really important we determine what matters to us, what are our values, because that's what's going to guide you through everything. So, if winning is your top priority, I guess in some capacity, that's your choice. You need to make sure everyone around you understands that that's your top priority, because your values are going to set the experience. And, if it's going to be a passion, it's going to be enjoyable. The environment has to be one you want to come into as a young player. And as a coach, you have a lot of control over that. And I think that's really important. I think communicating with the parent group, who also has a big, factor in sort of the experience and the environment of the year, is also really important. And understanding from both sides, that's a give and take. The parents have to understand coaches are doing their best. But it always, in my opinion, it always has to boil down to development. I don't care what level we're at. I don't think there's anything in our province. I would say the Oilers and Flames would argue that they have to be about development as well. The national team has to be about development as well. So, there's really no excuse not to have that as one of your pillars for success when trying to help young players in the game. And, what does development mean? Well, that's, can be decided, amongst your staff and team and everything like that. But don't lose sight of the fact that it's an absolute privilege to have the chance to positively impact others. And that's what coaching gives us. The vehicle is hockey, but the outcome is the chance to positively impact somebody else. And if you never lose sight of that, typically good things will happen.
Wow. So that is a perfect note to end on. And I think lots to take there for again, coaches from every level of the game, whether they're just getting into it or have been coaching for 10, 20 plus years. So thank you to both of you again, and Alex Mandolidis as well, who had to leave a little early. But thank you for joining us. A great discussion as always. And Carla, best of luck to you this season. Your inaugural one behind the bench with the Dinos. And Barry, you have the U18 camp coming up. So we'll see you later this week. And if we don't, good luck with that as well. And yeah, thank you again to both of you.
Thanks, Ted. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Great job, Carla. Thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too,
Good
Barry.
luck. Yeah.
Thanks.
One last thank you to Barry Medori, Alex Mandolidis, and Carla Mcleod for a great discussion. And as you can see, there's not really a way to be a perfect coach, but a million ways to be a really good coach. So I might have to trademark that. But anyways, a great conversation that highlights just how many opportunities there are out there for coaches to learn and grow, really regardless of where you want to go in your coaching career. So again, thank you to the three of them, and lots of passion there for coaching as well. And they've all had some great experiences through coaching and will continue to as well. So it's always nice to shine a little light on that as well. And with that, another episode of the Center Ice Podcast comes to a close. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you to all our guests. And of course, one last thank you to all the coaches out there for doing what you do. For Justin Fesyk, Barry Medori, Carla Mcleod, and Alex Mandolidis, I'm Ted Emmett, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Center Ice Podcast. For this episode and more, head to hockeyalberta.ca. If there's a topic you'd like covered on an upcoming episode, email info@hockeyalberta.ca.